Hello everypony and welcome to my review of Rainbow Rocks, which compared to Equestria Girls is actually not terrible. I have to admit, I had my doubts about another Equestria Girl since the first one was so underwhelming. But this one I feel hit on a lot of the points that make MLP such a lovable show. I will admit, I was not fully into Sunset Shimmer's character in Equestria Girls. Oh great, generic villain being a teenage girl who is super popular and main six have to stop her reign of terror.
Please excuse the sarcasm. Like Twilight, I'm a bookworm. I've read many a good story in my time. One of my biggest pet peeves involves anything that uses a totally overused and utterly predictable plotline and doesn't attempt to do anything original or interesting with the presentation of that plotline. The plot of Equestria Girls really turned into a typical teenage novel targeted towards girls. Twilight arrives in a new place, doesn't fit in, sees her friends fighting, gets them together, all while Sunset Shimmer stands in the background as the generic popular girl who is disliked by everyone, but they have to accept her because she is so popular and important. High school allegory, anyone? Even when she is reformed at the end of the movie, it still feels like something was missing from the equation. There could have been moments where Sunset Shimmer lamented over her past with Celestia, where she tried to convince herself that she was doing the right thing. Any kind of backstory development from Sunset Shimmer herself would have given her character depth and a deeper motive behind how she got to this point. Sorry, I'm done ranting now. After all, this video is about Rainbow Rocks, not Equestria Girls. Thankfully, Rainbow Rocks delves into some of these questions left unanswered by the end of Equestria Girls and really takes a good look at Sunset Shimmer's character. The first thing that struck me was the way the rest of the characters reacted to Sunset Shimmer. They all still held a grudge against her following the events of Equestria Girls, and many of them wanted nothing to do with her at all. This gives the audience their first real look into the psyche of Sunset Shimmer. She is trying her best to put the past behind her and move on. But it doesn't happen immediately, as there are still painful memories in the minds of those that she hurt along the way. But Sunset Shimmer still has the main five, not including Twilight at this point, to support and encourage her to keep trying to make things right. I believe that this approach is very effective and gives the audience a reason to care about Sunset Shimmer and feel her pain. By establishing her character as someone the audience should care about and even feel sorry for, it, in essence, destroys the horrible image that she had in the first movie. But she does more than simply stand to the side while the main six hog the spotlight. Throughout the film, she is constantly reminding the main six about the importance of their friendship and about how much she learned about friendship by watching them. In some ways, I could almost argue that in the universe of Equestria Girls, Sunset Shimmer is the equivalent of what Twilight is to the main six in the Pony universe. Sunset was a student of Celestia who couldn't understand her true power without friendship, but through her banishment to the Equestria Girls universe, she met friends and learned firsthand just how powerful the magic of friendship is. Just like Twilight. Sunset Shimmer is the guiding light to the group when they're arguing. Even when Twilight does join the rest of the group, she too is under so much stress that she can no longer be the wise leader like she is in her world. During one of the worst arguments between the main six during the final round of the Battle of the Bands, it is Sunset Shimmer, not Twilight, who realizes that they are playing right into the hands of the Dazzlings and are having their magic drained because of their disharmony. She reminds the main six about all they did to help her and why their friendship is so important and so valuable. At the end of the day, the story of Rainbow Rocks is about Sunset Shimmer's journey to redefine herself. She proves that she is deserving of just as much attention as the main six and that she could become a leader in her own right. wow. Just wow. They really pulled out all the stops when it came to the soundtrack for Rainbow Rocks. I mean, yes, Equestria Girls did have a couple catchy tunes, but to me it felt like those ones were catchy in the same way the soundtrack from High School Musical was. The drama surrounding the setup of each of these musical numbers feels a little heavy-handed at times when you are actually watching the film, and this makes it all the more over the top when you listen to the song by itself. I know it's kind of a bold statement to compare High School Musical to My Little Pony, but seriously, who watched the cafeteria song and didn't feel a sense of facepalm just watching the main six march around the room like idiots? That scene alone was one of the biggest reasons I was so against the idea of incorporating a Battle of the Bands plotline into another Equestria Girls movie. But luckily for me, this plotline also opened up the possibility for all these new amazing songs to be written, which as a music nerd I adore. The manipulative nature of the Dazzlings and the way they use their magic to influence people reminds me of Discord. Maybe that's why I love it so much. Discord was one of my favorite villains from MLP simply because he was a trickster and was manipulative in just the right way so that the slow corruption of the main six didn't feel too forced or overly contrived. I suppose you could even compare the Dazzling's general attitude towards the other characters to the way Queen Chrysalis acted when she was under the guise of Princess Cadence. On the surface, they are generally uncaring and even sarcastic towards their peers, yet still manage to maintain an overall non-belligerent attitude towards them. However, their ultimate goal and true nature is very deadly and vicious, as they use their cunning and wit to lull their enemies into a false sense of security before unleashing their terror upon everyone. Back in Equestria Girls, Sunset Shimmer was painted as the super manipulative popular girl that everyone hates simply because she is so mean to everyone. The fact that there is an undertone of magic in Canterlot High following Sunset Shimmer's defeat really adds to the effectiveness of the Dazzlings and makes it necessary for the main five to ask for Twilight's help. Earlier, I said I was opposed to the idea of having a Battle of the Bands plot simply because it felt too overly dramatic and kind of corny like High School Musical or something. But the tricky nature of the villains makes this a very effective tactic for their purposes. Initially, the school was simply going to hold a musical showcase, without it having any kind of competitive undertones at all. But then the Dazzlings decide to manipulate the participants to their own purposes. And how do they do this? By initiating a scene that quite possibly saved this movie for me and made my pain over the cafeteria song worse suffering. I'm talking about the Battle of the Bands song. Congratulations once again to the wonderful Daniel Ingram for his musical genius. The Dazzlings' hypnotic voices truly live up to the sirens that they are named after. Even just watching this scene has a hypnotic effect through both the music and the movements of the Dazzlings. I have to admit that when they began singing Under Our Spell, I almost did a double take as I realized that I truly had been put under their spell. Now, I know what you're thinking. If I personally found Equestria Girls to be so awful, then comparing it to Rainbow Rocks means that my expectations can only go up from there, right? I actually did make a point before putting this video together to watch both movies back to back and make sure that my opinion of either wasn't too harsh or overly enthusiastic. I have to admit that I did find myself cracking a smile on multiple occasions during Equestria Girls, and even laughing hard enough to warrant pausing the video to compose myself before continuing at one point. But although Equestria Girls did have great moments of comedy, the reason it falls short, in my opinion, is its lackluster story and very generic villain used in every other show that involves a school setting. But where Equestria Girls fell short, Rainbow Rocks seems to take note of and attempted to do better. In terms of characterization, Sunset Shimmer stands out above even the main six as we see the new and improved side of her personality and see the positive effect she has on the rest of the group. The Dazzlings were well integrated into the story with similar effects on the rest of the students as Discord had on the main six, turning them against each other using their music and wit. The music is cleverly written not only to be relevant to the story as well as catchy. The wide variety of musical stylings really adds to the enjoyment of listening to the soundtrack. Overall, I'd say Rainbow Rocks is a satisfying sequel to Equestria Girls, and it makes me a little more forgiving of the MLP staff for deciding to make a movie about the human counterparts of our favorite ponies. But now I'd love to hear what you think about Rainbow Rocks. I know it's been out for a while now, and I'm not the first one to talk about it. But I appreciate you taking the time to listen to what I have to say. This is my first real review on YouTube, so it may be a little bit rough compared to the likes of other pony analysts. I'd like to personally thank Dr. Wolf, who has been a huge inspiration for me and has helped me appreciate MLP all the more. I hope to make more videos in the future, especially now that Season 5 is out. I hope to spend this summer compiling as many reviews as I can if this one is well received. Thank you, and I hope to see you again.